What's going on, everybody? We're here on Publicity. We're here to talk to you about a Jinteki build that I posted a couple weeks ago and got ripped apart. So we're here to talk about it more, and not to prove to you that
that's exactly
that it works.
That's what I'm going to try to do.
All right, but okay. Guess we're proving
we're going to pose an argument.
Jamieson is modest. I think this deck is pretty bitchin'.
So, let's talk about it. It was a Jinteki build that used as many one-point agendas as possible. Obviously, Fetal AIs, and then I needed one copy of something else just to round out the number. And I originally decided on Braintrust because it advanced for 3. And I thought...
you could one-turn it.
Yeah, right?
Which I think is the general consensus with most people running this deck now. They think that. And I would probably go Braintrust too, but it's interesting
but
that you went.
The style that I was running was I would install and drop 2 advancements on it. So when I do that, even if it's a 4-point, it's still getting advanced the next turn anyway. So it's still taking 2 turns to do that. So it came down to looking at what the powers of the agenda were. And Nisei went in, and it has worked very well when it's scored. I mean, it's still a one-off card in the deck, so the chances of it coming up sometimes are very slim.
I'd say like 1 in 49.
Yeah. Okay. No, 1 in 49 games you're going to see it.
No, 1 in 49 cards.
Well, yes. I'm talking about the average of games.
Oh.
Stupid.
So it could end the run. Then what we looked at from there, after that was decided, is the ice. This is where things got a little tricky.
Hairy.
Yeah.
This is where I came in as a pro Jinteki player.
And what did you say? Originally we had chums and data mines to maximize the damage in a run, but what was happening is that once the data mines would pop, they would trash, the chum would slide down and become useless. So was the data mine as a one-time use worth it? Squid says no. So we pulled those. In the second running, we then threw in Janus instead.
Which I've been using a lot in my Replicating Perfection decks. And I mean, Janus, it doesn't scream out to this build, but I know that the surprise value, and that's kind of what this deck is. It's kind of like, I want to hit you with as much micro damage as possible, but being able to get that Janus off is a huge boon. The only downside for most decks is actually running it with, like, actually having the economy to run it is hard. But this deck, because it's not rezzing a lot of ice, to me, that was the perfect thing. So I told you to take the chums out and replace them with those.
Very important to say that the Janus work incredibly well in conjunction with the Neural EMPs. Because, remember, a lot of people are just going to draw their hand up like crazy and then make a run. Well, that's all well and good, but then when their turn ends and they have to discard to like 1 or 2 cards, you got them, right? So
that's what happened to me when I was playing Malice. Malice actually took a form of this deck to a tournament in Toronto. And, yeah, I miscalculated, and I thought I was running against a Neural Katana and hit Janus and had to play the whole game with 4 brain damage. Needless to say, it wasn't a long game.
Now, you have to... Jinteki, you really have to know your timings, when to pop a trap and when to hold back. Just because you have that Janus down, if they run on the first turn, you have to decide then and there if you have the money to pop it up, because the problem is it can be clicked through. So, do you see issues with that?
I think as a general playstyle, difference between me and you is I tend to not overthink things. I think that's the best way to play trap heavy deck. Is if you don't overthink things, then it makes it very hard for your opponent to make calculated good moves. For me, if this is my hand and I'm not sure whether or not I want to put a Junebug or a Snare in play, I'll just shuffle it myself, and then the first one I see I put down. Or if it's an agenda and a Junebug, then I'll just shuffle what I have, and then put the first one down and put two advancement tokens on it, and then just kind of go with what fate has given me at that point.
That playstyle takes a lot of the tell out, right? Would you?
You could have the tell if you check afterwards, like if you put it down and go, what did I do, right? But I mean, you just have to kind of be confident with your moves, and yeah, as
you really have to dig deep in your poker skills to play this. Whether you're playing a trap, whether you're putting an agenda down, whether you're putting your ice, your Janus, or Neural Katana is the other ice that is in this deck. It's 2 Janus right now and 3 Neurals. So something like that. Have you found you played a Jinteki player that can't pull off a good bluff? Have you been able to read in certain situations?
Generally, Corpse can read most of my calls.
Yeah, reading is it's very important when you're coming up against Jinteki players. If you can't read them, then you have to add all sorts of things in your deck, like infiltrations and all that kind of stuff, just to make sure that you're going to be on the safe side. But in a deck like this, the problem is that even if you can read them, there's always a couple that slip past the goalie, obviously, and like you might not be watching their hands as they put things down, or checking to see what they're looking at before they put things down, or they could shuffle and then put it down, and then they don't even know, right? So again, that throws a wrench in the works. Playing against this deck, though, it doesn't really matter. So I've played this deck several times now, and I've only been able to beat it one time. And generally, what happens is you score a whole bunch of agendas, you're taking all sorts of damage, right? But then you look at your agenda pile and you've only got like 5 bloody points because you've sold 5 1-pointers. And the thing is that throughout the course of the game, he's also been scoring agendas, so he's sitting at 5 or 6. And then at that point, the pressure's really on. Like, you can't afford to let anything sit down with tokens on it. So you have to
draw up, and you're
darned if you do, and you're darned if you don't. That's
forcing
the
you into a gameplay that you don't necessarily want to make.
Yeah.
Now, when we were looking at the ice, we specifically looked at ice that would damage, but not end the run. Like, I want to drop as much damage as I can on you, and then if you steal an agenda, I'm giving you 1 point. Like, I'm not worried about that. But because I'm running personal evolution, now that's another point of agenda or damage that you're taking.
One counterpoint to that would be the fact that you're running all sentries, which is, I was
just going to lead into say, like, are you concerned that both of these ice are sentry based?
Well, I mean, I'm personally not concerned because those are my 2 favorite ice in the game right now. But Malice has switched over. He's actually testing it today at a local tournament. He switched over to Heimdall 2.0, which kind of does the same thing, except it adds the end run, and it's also a barrier.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it does switch it up, but I was concerned about that move because I didn't want to end the run.
Yeah,
that's fair,
so
and that's why I would stick with
the only thing is that if they're running the deck, which is like, what is it called, heavy fairy kind of thing, it's fairy and dirty hands. And
CT Fairy Rush is a deck that just stomps this.
That's actually my stage name.
Well, you know what,
I danced to Tom Sawyer.
Nice.
Most people are also going to tell you that
I thought I saw that on.
A Deus Ex or a feedback filter. As soon as somebody's running feedback filter, it's going to kill this deck.
No.
Well, if they have tons of money.
I mean, yeah, you have to pay for that stuff. I mean, there is no real answer. I mean, other than the CT Fairy Rush, which I mean, bombs through your ice, but also reoccurs Deus Ex. Like, unless you're reoccurring Deus Ex, there is no real good way to prevent net damage right now.
Remember, Deus Ex is only from one source, also, right? So it's not like all the whole run is all the damage.
And that's the point of this deck. Is it's a. I mean, I'm referring to it as micro damage because it's just like every card in the deck either does damage to you or directly helps you do damage. You know what I mean?
It's death by 1,000 cuts.
So
that's a good.
Yeah, good term. I stole that shamelessly.
The other thing that helps out is we're running one upgrade, and it's 3 copies of the Hokusai Grid.
Which I think are just really, I think they should fall into your ice category. They're just It's like a reoccurring data mine at this point.
You just throw it in,
and if they want to spend their money to trash it, by all means.
Right.
But then they're still also taking a damage.
Oh yeah, no, I agree.
It's nice.
Good spots for this are, R&D, you can either put one on R&D or your hand. You can feel them out. If they're shaper, they're probably going to just attack your R&D. So one there is perfect. I find sometimes that putting one of these in a remote with either a small Neural Katana over, they're less likely to be cautious running a remote than they are through a wall of ice, because eventually that they're going to have to, because it's an upgrade, attack it. So throw it down, res it up, and then pop off one or two agendas. This deck excels when you score the new Profiteering, because you take all that bad publicity. Take 3 of them and take the $15.
You want to take all 9.
Yeah, because the bad publicity helps no runner against this deck. So that's great. It's a great addition. Oh, before you get off the Hokusai Grid thing as well.
Putting these on the... We haven't really pulled it off yet, but there's been talk, putting one of these on your archives. Archives are the sneaky way to run things, especially when it does have 3 Jackson Howards.
Yeah.
Now, there is a little bit of a sneaky thing, is if you can pop a Hokusai behind it, have the Jackson Howard out, and ditch 1 or 2, 3 or 4 agendas into your archives, when they run it, don't pop Jackson.
Mm-hmm. They take the Hokusai damage and then all of the damage from the run. So if they haven't overdrawn before they run in, they could flatline themselves simply by just scoring agenda points. But before we move on Hokusai. So if you got a Hokusai sitting in a remote server, and this deck also runs Trick of Lights, what you can do is you can take Hokusai, put it out, maybe put a piece of ice in front, why not, and then have your Fetal AI sitting there. Now, what you can do with this is, and this was beautiful, somebody commented about this on the forums, is just simply have it down and advance it, but then as soon as you possibly can, Trick of Light off of it and put it onto another agenda.
That's an old trick.
I know, but it's beautiful though.
Jinteki players have been doing that since day one.
It's gorgeous though.
Oh, and then score those things. Is insane.
Yeah, and then people, they don't ever give it a second thought. They think that it's a trap and that you're just using it for Trick of Light food. But then come the end of the game, you're like, boop, got it, right?
Yeah.
You have to immediately, in order for that trick to work, you have to immediately load it up again
twice.
So, but yeah, that's a flawless play.
Especially with the Hokusai behind it, because then if they do run at the thing and take it, then they're taking like 3-4 damage from that. You know what I mean? It just it's ugly.
Trick of Lights went into the second round. We've upped them up. The second version of this deck, for those that were following online, they really went in there because the compliments of the Ronin. At first, I didn't have faith in Ronin because it was hard for me to load it up without. I was worried that someone was going to take a peek at it. Now I want them to. I don't really care if I have 2 on there and you run it and you see that it's a Ronin. You're not going to be able to leave any advancement on anything for the rest of the game.
You have to.
And install advance play on a Ronin, and they know you have Ronins. That means an install advance on any remote becomes so dangerous. I don't know what else to comment on there. I mean, like you said,
I've been talking about Ronin since they came out. Ronins makes Junebugs kill people now.
Right.
That's how it is. Like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. If you don't run it, you could die from the Ronin itself, or if you do run it, you could die from the fact that you're probably bluffing out a Junebug.
Prior to Ronin, it was put a card down, advance, so like that's a Junebug.
Yeah,
right.
we'll just leave that. Like it's not a big deal.
Now another trap that we've had included in this is the Cerebral Overwriter. The second version of this build ran 3 Overwriters. Because we were really going for the brain damage, like with Janus. Once you get brain damage against Jinteki, it's really a downhill slope from there, because you can draw up and run as much as you want, but at the end of their turn, you're discarding to your
battle.
limit.
That's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
Downhill slope means it's
easy going.
No, it's easy to lose.
Well, I guess if you want to switch it around like that,
if you want to use it that way,
if you want to butcher it, yeah.
You're just sliding right to the big L.
I would say that if I took 4 brain damage, it would be an uphill battle to win. But maybe that's me. We've actually argued before on stuff like this, so.
So then the new version, what I'm trying now is I've cut down to only 1 Overwriter, and that is to save on splash.
What could you splash for 4 points? What does a lot of damage?
This deck is about surprise. I mean, I could tell you the whole list, and you could right then go home and build a counter to it, or post a counter to it in the forums like it's been done. Post the list, someone's like, feedback filter is going to kill this. Yeah, but how many people are building a feedback filter deck? Right now it's not in the meta. Yeah.
All feedback filter all the time.
Right?
4 copies.
Four copies of feedback filter in my deck.
Not many people are expecting a deck build like this, so it is catching people off guard. So
okay, I'm gonna stop you there.
But I want to just say that so we took out the Cerebral Overwriter and we put in a single copy of Scorch. So that's if you camp that tag on a snare right now.
I just don't. Okay. I understand your theory behind that, but in all honesty, this deck is not like a one-trick surprise pony. Like, me and Corpse have played it several times. We've helped you build it. We both are running,
I'm for the Scorch though.
I'm not disagreeing with the Scorch. I think
he's commenting on the.
This isn't a surprise deck. It's not. Oh my god! I've never seen that before. I can't beat it. It's just a genuinely good deck.
Yeah.
There is. I mean, other than the CT Fairy Rush right now, which I mean, there could be more. Yeah, you could post a deck that's going to slaughter this deck, but
lose to almost everything else.
The thing is, the CT Fairy Rush deck we've seen. I mean, we all really like. We think it's a great, fun deck. It's a competitive deck, and that's something that we can genuinely see you playing. That's what Malice played at the tournament, and that was the only deck that beat this deck at the tournament. The only runner that was able to take this down. It just works. It's so consistent with how it works. As long as you play it with put it down, 2 advancement tokens on it. Put it down, 2 advancement tokens on it. And, I mean, you're going to be making your money. It's just, the deck just works. Like, it's so hard to see. Unless you, if you're too stubborn to build it and see, you really can't.
Yeah. You know what? I think a lot of it goes back to the talk at the beginning, that Jinteki is always going to be more about the player than it is the deck. Like you said, you know exactly everything's in here. From the time when I'm like, okay, let's change things up for this game. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm changing to playtest.
Yeah.
And, you're still struggling.
Yeah.
So, but it's how it's played. It's, do you look at that card for, 5 minutes, really decide, and then slowly put it down? Or are you just confident in your put out? Jinteki's going to be about how you play it. If you can't play the bluff game, if you can't, if you have a lot of tells, if you're indecisive and stutter where you're putting your cards out, you're going to have a hard time playing Jinteki in general.
I think that a Jinteki player, like an actual Jinteki player, is going to see the merit in this kind of deck. And then there's other players who just don't see merit. Originally, you didn't like Jinteki. You know what I mean? You couldn't get behind the fact that, you probably still wouldn't be able to play my Replicating Perfection deck.
No.
Like, not even a little bit.
No.
But that's because that's a deck that I'm specifically built to rely on all of my bluff. And for as good as Corpse is able to read me, I think he's the only one that's able to see my tells and see them. And it's just like, with this deck, it almost eliminates all that to me. Because you're just like, oh, well, you draw it and you're like, put it down, 2 advancement tokens on it. Cool. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like I said, if you ever have that question in your head, shuffle them up, put the first one out. Even if you have all agendas in your shuffle it up, put it out, because that's going to make them double think everything.
The scoring, obviously Profiteering is money making. If you pop off the
obviously, yep,
the Gila
hand over fist. Oh, there's your Janus.
The Gila hands is a money making agenda, right? I have 3 celebrity gifts and I have 3 hedge funds. So you know what? The trick is you cannot be afraid to put an agenda down and double advance it. And if they run it and score it, who cares? Right?
The money in this deck is insane.
Yeah, the only thing you're spending your money on is your Neural Katana, your Janus, and your Hokusai Grid.
And then
everything else is just to advance.
Obviously you always make sure that you have the credits if someone pops a snare. But
yeah. But I mean, that's...
I'm pretty sure
you'll
you'll have the credits.
Yeah, you do have the credits.
Now, maybe in a future version, I'm thinking about removing Hedge Fund. I know I'm kind of middle ground with Profiteering.
You would be in the middle. I would be pro, and then you would be against over there.
Not Profiteering. What's it called?
Restructured.
I think it works in certain decks. It's not always going to be an auto include. You like Hedge Fund still better. You're totally for pro it. This deck makes enough to get to 10 very easily.
No problem.
So I might remove Hedge Funds, but I'm not sold on it yet.
Yeah.
So there is that to be adjusted. Your thoughts on it are obviously...
Restructuring is an insane card.
But you would you take all 3 hedge funds out and automatically replace?
There's no other income card that you could take out. So I mean,
no, but I mean, would you take out 2?
Yes. No, I would take out all 3.
Your thoughts?
I would not. Just simply because the deck makes enough money anyway. Why are you going to limit yourself to needing $10 just to make $1 extra? The return is such a diminished return. So it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Well, there has been talk that another thing that this deck can be ripped apart by Vamp and Account Siphon.
That was my play when I tried to play it before, but honest to God, it is just
where is it? Yeah, go ahead and Account Siphon.
Yeah, because that's
that
the
Account
thing.
Siphon India.
The Scorch.
Yeah.
I have seen it that after an Account Siphon on this deck, people have left the tags. So that's another way. Like, people aren't expecting you to... Because how heavily this was net damaging, a lot of people were camping tags, and that's why the one
thing. Like, I play a reoccurring Siphon deck. Like, that's my deck right now. And it's just like... The amount of money you make and how fast you make it's... I would probably do it once, and then after I saw how this deck worked, I'd be like... That was pointless, and now I have 2 tags that I need to burn.
I took $5 from him, which didn't matter, and now I've got 10, which I don't need. Right?
Yeah.
And 2 tags.
You don't need money. All you want to do is sit on like $2, unless you're doing like a multiple dig for multiple cards. Basically, you want to have enough money to score the Fetal AIs when you see them.
Yeah,
Other than that, you don't need money. You need to spend your clicks to draw. Wild Side is a card that you don't want to see in this deck.
Down. Yeah, Wild Side would be good to play against this, but again, there's not a lot of Wild Side out there anymore, and even then, it's still not a guarantee.
Not many people are sacrificing.
It's not a real hard counter.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not saying hard counters. I'm just throwing out a couple. It gives you 2 cards for 1 click. Another card that's good in this deck against this deck would be Professional Contacts, because it lets you draw up, which you're going to want to do anyway, but it also gives you the income to do your Fetal AIs.
Yeah.
You take that 4 damage. You have no money. Draw your 4 cards.
There are common and ways to combat this deck, but the thing is, nothing is a sure guarantee. That's the thing. Like, and what I was going to say before is that when you initially brought this to me, even its first rendition, the first time playing against it, not knowing what was in it, so the same as if basically any tournament setting, I was destroyed, like decimated, and I'm running the relatively popular Andy deck, right? A slight variation on that build kind of thing.
You were scoring like you're like, and a 1-pointer. And a 1-pointer.
But I was murdered. Like, I got like maybe 3 and then I died. But then the next time, so then we spread the deck out, took a look at it, and I knew exactly what was in it, put it back together, played it again, still lost. Like, it's, you know what I mean? It's, I don't know.
It's worrisome too, because sometimes the cards, when you do damage to a card, like you're pulling from their hand, people might need that card.
Yeah.
That could be their income card. That could be their, you could be popping their Sentry Breaker. The
one that they need.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So especially for a first-time playthrough, you're doing a lot of damage. People are really worried.
Again, I don't like talking about first-time playthroughs. I think that we should talk about the longevity of the deck.
No, I
think that this. Be prepared to see this deck. That's what I want to say. Yeah. And I mean, you might think whatever, it's easy to blow over, or it's going to be a one-trick pony, but
the problem is with that,
I can't wait until you meet somebody who likes this deck and is good with this deck, and you don't beat him consistently.
But you have to think right now that this deck is really solid win rate with this set of cards. Okay, like
we've
taken one out, one here and there. Jinteki for the rest of this data cycle is just gonna be so
That's what I was
phenomenal,
getting gold,
right?
yeah.
Like when Shock comes out, Shock is an auto include here, and that's just another trap that all of a sudden you're not running archives
aren't
anymore.
safe. Yeah, and that makes that archive dig a lot more dangerous.
But that
as
was
well.
one thing that we talked about earlier too. Like, and you kind of touched on it. Like, this deck is kind of a mechanic, and I told you this too. And the reason why I like my Replicating Perfection deck over this, and I still play mine over this, is the fact that I feel like my deck has. It's going to have more personality and it's going to change more as the sets come out. I don't think, other than Shock and other 1 point agendas, this deck isn't going to change. Like, this deck is going to stay very stagnant. So maybe there will be a hard counter to this eventually, but that's my only downside to this deck. I think that there's just not a lot of wiggle room for kind of
if
fun and personality.
Then
if
we're
somebody, it's just going to open the
Assuming.
Jinteki pool up, and it's going to you're going to have to think a little more when you're running against it, because you might not know.
No. I know. I'm not discrediting it at all. I love it, and don't get me wrong. I love
No,
the
I
fact
mean the future
that
of
we
the cards that are coming, how they mesh with it, right?
and we have the guy who constantly made fun of all of my picks for Jinteki, and now he's playing. This is cool.
because
like-
it was just time to write after the once Profiteering and Clone Retirement came out. Those I think
That made it made the deck.
You're saying a lot, but really you could just say you were right, Chase.
No, because you kept putting Replicating Perfection as your number one, and it's no.
Yeah, but I still put Personal Evolution.
So
really.
did I. So did he.
I think I was dealing
No,
with
you had-
I think I was dealing with Future Squid, because you must have came back because Jinteki was crap for so long, but you stuck it out with it, and now it's coming into its prime. It's being lifted, put on the pedestal.